In this powerful continuation, we began to see what it truly means to be chosen by God and strategically positioned for purpose. Just as Esther found herself in a place she did not fully understand, many of us navigate seasons that feel uncertain, yet are divinely orchestrated. Inside the polished walls of the Grant Foundation, a young and unknown woman, Kereen Bennett, was unexpectedly selected as National Ambassador. Humble, sincere, and spiritually grounded, she stepped into a world of wealth and influence, unaware that the programs she represented were connected to the suffering she would soon witness firsthand. Behind the scenes stood the hidden strategist, Haman, the real power behind Senator Grant. He reframed corruption as leadership and orchestrated quiet attacks to silence opposition. Yet his greatest threat was never public resistance. It was the truth discovered at the right moment. Part 2 revealed that being chosen is not about comfort. It is about calling. It showed us that God places people in specific environments, relationships, and moments, not by accident, but by design. Even when the process feels uncomfortable or unclear, He is aligning circumstances for a greater purpose. As the tension rises in Part 3, the story will move from quiet awareness to necessary courage. Like Kereen, there comes a moment when silence is no longer an option, and a time when purpose demands obedience. Part 3 will stir your spirit, challenge your perspective, and prepare your heart for the defining decisions ahead. The following week, the Foundation headquarters buzzed with unusual intensity. Grant's international infrastructure announcement was approaching. Media partners confirmed, investors secured, policy drafts finalized. Behind glass walls and polished floors, ambition moved quickly. But inside one office, Kereen stared at a map. The coastal district was marked for relocation support. Her grandmother's village, her childhood summers, underdeveloped land. That was what the document called it. And for the first time since entering the arena of politics, her heart trembled, because now the connection was clear. Vanessa's words, the villagers' voices, the Foundation's plans. They were not separate stories and beneath charts, policies, and speeches. A spiritual confrontation was forming. Nothing was public as yet, but destiny had connected two women, and soon it would test them both. Grant's international infrastructure announcement loomed over the city like a storm cloud. Media partners confirmed. Cameras, lights, press passes. Everything was set. The world watched, anticipating bold speeches, grand promises, polished smiles. But inside the Foundation's sleek offices, truth waited quietly. As she scrolled through the files, a deep unease settled in her chest. Numbers blurred before her eyes, columns of figures that should have added up, yet seemed to vanish into thin air. Budgets inflated beyond reason, line items padded under labels like community support or infrastructure contingency. The amounts were staggering, far beyond what could be justified. Each entry was a silent witness to greed cloaked in bureaucracy. Kereen's stomach churned. She had expected corruption in whispers, in small compromises, but not this. Not an entire network of deception hidden in plain sight. Her eyes moved to another section, and her pulse quickened. Displacement plans for various coastal districts were buried under innocuous titles: development programs, urban revitalization, regional enhancement. The documents described progress and growth, but omitted the faces, the homes, the lives that would be uprooted. Her grandmother's village, the lanes she had once run through as a child, the very land where summers had been spent playing barefoot under the sun, all now reduced to lines and numbers, to boxes on a spreadsheet. Each page she turned felt heavier, as if the weight of the displaced pressed down on her shoulders. Then came the financial transfers, offshore accounts layered through shell companies, destinations hidden beneath cryptic codes. The sums were astronomical, far beyond anything that could be considered reasonable for infrastructure. Each transfer was a deliberate maze, designed to keep prying eyes from discovering the truth. Kereen traced the flow of money with growing disbelief. The sheer scale of it left her breathless, but also ignited a fire within, a need to understand, to see clearly where all this led. And finally, the bold signatures, stamped and authorized with the weight of authority. Grant's and Haman's signature. Names she had respected, trusted. Each signature was a mark of consent. The same hands that shook hers in polite greetings, that smiled at press events, had sanctioned the very schemes that threatened the Jamaican people and the communities she had grown up with. The realization hit her like a physical blow. This was no longer about policies or politics. It was about morality, justice, and the choice she had to make. Kereen leaned back in her chair, staring at the screen, the room around her silent, except for the faint hum of the air conditioning. Her stomach twisted. Her heart raced. She could no longer remain an observer. The files were not just documents. They were evidence, a call to action, and a mirror reflecting the corruption she had never imagined could exist so close to her. The weight of it pressed down on her, but beneath the shock, a quiet determination began to form. She had to act. Somehow, she had to make this right. Kereen leaned back in her chair, her hands trembling slightly. The office around her, once a place of ambition and promise, felt foreign and cold. Every line on the spreadsheets, every signature on the documents were proof of a network she had only glimpsed from the edges, until now. Her stomach churned and her mind raced. She had prepared for audits, for policy research. She had not prepared for this level of deception. Her pulse quickened. She could feel the weight of choice pressing down on her. Speak and risk everything, or stay silent and protect her position. Her hand hovered over her phone. She could not face this alone. Uncle Michael. The thought brought both comfort and urgency. She dialed. The line clicked, and then a calm, familiar voice answered. "Uncle Michael, I don't know what to do," she whispered, almost afraid the walls themselves might be listening. He listened patiently, his voice steady, unwavering. "Don't act rashly. Stay where you are. Watch. I'll use my contacts. We'll learn more. Trust me, Kereen, there is a time to act, but not yet." She exhaled slowly. His words were a lifeline, yet they left her in the eye of a storm. The storm of corruption, of moral conflict, of a truth she could not unsee. Her conscience tugged at her, whispering that waiting was a risk too. Her access, her knowledge, her calling, they demanded action. But Uncle Michael's guidance reminded her that patience could be power. The office was quiet, but inside Kereen, chaos roared. She remembered Vanessa's words, subtle warnings delivered with warmth and care. She recalled the prophetess, her soft voice speaking blessings that now rang like cautions. "Be ready, child. The truth will come to you when you are least prepared." This was that moment. She understood now that her presence in the Foundation, her access to these files, was not coincidence. Destiny had placed her here, and the knowledge she held was both a burden and a weapon. Could she stay silent while injustice thrived? Could she protect herself while villages were erased? Her heart ached with the tension of the choice. Every fiber of her being demanded action, yet every instinct warned caution. The files lay open before her, a bridge between what was and what could be revealed. Kereen knew that the next steps she took would define not just her career, but her integrity, her purpose, and perhaps the lives of countless others. Finally, she closed her eyes and let herself breathe. A quiet determination formed through the fear. This was no longer about her position, her safety, or ambition. This was about truth, about justice, about being the person she had always been called to be. She would not act recklessly, and she would not allow her emotions to betray her judgment. She would watch, gather evidence, protect what she could, and when the time came, she would act. The files were not just proof of corruption. They were a map, a guide, a revelation. They had chosen her as their witness, and in doing so, chosen her to become their participant. And as she looked out at the city lights, she understood that the quiet office was no longer her world alone, because the storm had begun, and she was in its eye. Was she ready to navigate the coming chaos? Kereen felt a wave of nausea, not from the office air or the late afternoon sun, but from the weight of what she had discovered. Every signature, every inflated number, every hidden transfer became like a physical burden. She closed her laptop slowly, her fingers lingering on the edge, as if she could hold back the truth simply by not looking. But doing nothing felt impossible. Her heart and her conscience demanded some measure of response. And so, she decided to step back, to clear her mind, to seek guidance. She would fast. She would pray. Alone in the quiet of her small apartment, she could disentangle fear from purpose, ambition from calling. The next morning, Kereen reached for her phone again. Uncle Michael answered immediately, his voice calm but attentive, grounding her in the storm that had begun within her. "Uncle Michael," she said, voice steadying with each word. "I've seen everything. The files, the budgets, the plans. I don't know how far this goes, but it's bigger than I imagined." He was silent for a moment, weighing his words. "Kereen, you are seeing what few ever will. That knowledge is power and danger. You cannot expose this blindly. You must watch, gather, and act at the right moment. Trust that there is a plan greater than ours. But don't let fear paralyze you." She exhaled slowly, absorbing his counsel. It was a lifeline, yes, but it was also a call to courage. Alone again, Kereen sank into thought. She closed her eyes and whispered words she barely understood herself. "Maybe God placed me here for this moment, for such a time as this." Her heart tightened, chest rising and falling with the gravity of her realization. She knew that exposure could cost her career, her safety, even the life she had painstakingly built within the foundation. But still, some truths were too important to ignore. "If I lose everything, I still must stand," she declared aloud, her voice shaking but firm. The silence of the room seemed to echo her words back to her, as if affirming the resolve that had begun to form. She began carefully. Discreet notes, copied files, screenshots, saved under coded labels. Each movement she made was deliberate and calculated to avoid suspicion. Every file she touched was treated like evidence in a courtroom, every signature examined and logged. She reached out quietly to trusted allies, her contacts at the foundation, a few insiders who had quietly voiced discomfort in the past. They could help, she thought, if the moment was right. Her network was small, but invisible to the casual observer. The foundation continued its work as if nothing had changed. Meetings, presentations, investor calls, they all pressed on, polished and routine. And yet, in the shadows of glass walls and sterile conference rooms, Kereen's silent vigilance grew. Every night, she returned to prayer. Every day, she moved with purpose. The files were more than evidence. They were a bridge between what was hidden and what must eventually be revealed. And Kereen knew, deep in her soul, that this was only the beginning. The confrontation was coming, not yet public, not yet political, but it was spiritual and destined. She closed her eyes once more, whispering softly, "Lord, give me strength. If I fall, may it be standing for truth. If I lose all, may I not lose myself." And somewhere in the silence, the city continued its rhythm, unaware of the quiet storm brewing within one young woman, ready to step into the tide of change. The city slept under a veil of streetlights and silence. But Kereen was wide awake. She moved carefully, tracing the paths the documents had laid before her. Her fingers danced across the keyboard. Encrypted copies, coded files, discreet messages sent to allies she trusted. She knew the walls had ears. She knew the polished halls held secrets. But she had something they did not: insight, purpose, and a moral compass that refused to yield. Somewhere in the shadows, Haman watched. He had sensed disruption before it surfaced, a subtle undercurrent threatening the control he wielded with quiet precision. And when he saw the first signs, files accessed, questions asked, his calm demeanor snapped. Haman's eyes burned with something darker than suspicion: hatred. He thought about her, the young woman who had appeared almost by chance, humble and seemingly unremarkable. Haman knew that Kereen was not ordinary. Suddenly, a sharp and sudden memory surfaced, a confrontation he had long tried to bury. It was 5 years ago. The office had been dim, the air tense with unspoken threats. Haman's sharp gaze had met Uncle Michael's calm but steady eyes. "You think you can manipulate the system, influence outcomes behind the scenes?" Haman's voice was low, cold, and dangerous. Uncle Michael had leaned back slightly, his expression serene, unshaken. "I protect what must be protected, and sometimes that means letting you believe you are in control." Haman's hand had tightened around the edge of the desk. "You are playing a dangerous game. One day, it will catch up to you." Uncle Michael smiled faintly. "Perhaps. But when it does, it will be justice, not vengeance, that decides the outcome." That day, Haman had felt a seed of hatred plant itself. Quiet at first, almost imperceptible, until it grew into something personal, something that now targeted Kereen. Back in her apartment, Kereen did not yet know the full scope of the danger. She only knew the necessity of the moment. The threads were stretching thin. Each step she took brought her closer to confrontation, closer to the men whose signatures tainted villages, whose ambitions threatened countless lives. And unknown to her, Haman's attention had turned fully toward her, his hatred now a sharpened blade, and his knowledge of her uncle a secret advantage he would not forget. Kereen sensed the invisible tension tightening around her. She paused, looking at the glowing city below, understanding that the game had changed. What had begun as a silent quest for truth was now a battle for survival, and the players were already aware of her presence. The storm was no longer coming. The storm had begun. Haman could not sleep. The image of Kereen, calm, focused, unassuming, yet piercingly perceptive, haunted him. She was everywhere in his mind, and with every thought his obsession grew sharper, more dangerous. It started as curiosity. Who was this young woman who seemed to slip past every wall he had erected, quietly probing, quietly observing? But curiosity had quickly curdled into something darker. Hatred, the kind that gnaws at your bones and whispers every night that it must be quenched. He began small. Files she had touched were subtly rearranged, access logs altered to create confusion. A colleague, loyal to Haman, was nudged into asking the wrong questions at the wrong time, casting shadows of doubt over her reliability. Nothing overt, nothing traceable, just enough to unsettle her. And yet Haman was patient. Precision was his art. He knew overt action would alert Uncle Michael, and he could not risk that yet. This was a chessboard, and Kereen had just made the first bold move. He would respond slowly and with kindness, forcing her to second-guess every step. From the glass towers above the city, Haman watched. He traced her movements in subtle ways: office timings, the pattern of her meetings, her sudden absences. Nothing she did escaped his scrutiny. Each small victory she achieved in accessing information, in quietly forwarding evidence to Uncle Michael, only fueled his obsession. "This girl," he muttered under his breath, pacing in his darkened office. "She thinks she can play in my world. But no one slips past me and goes unpunished." He clenched his fist, recalling the old confrontation with Uncle Michael 5 years ago. The memory surged through him, now intertwined with Kereen's defiance. He understood that she was protected, yes, but that protection made her even more dangerous. And dangerous people, in Haman's world, had to be eliminated. Haman's first strike was subtle and insidious. He had a loyal assistant discreetly remove a critical set of files Kereen had cataloged. Files she had relied on to piece together the Foundation's network of corruption. Nothing catastrophic, but enough to slow down her progress, to frustrate her, and to make her question her own perception of reality. Then, he ensured that a small, embarrassing error appeared in a report she had prepared for a policy review meeting. It was a small error a casual observer might not notice, but it was enough to seed doubt among the investors she had briefed. Enough to shake her confidence. Haman's methods were surgical, unseen, a predator stalking a quarry. He was not yet ready for confrontation, but every calculated act of sabotage was a message. "I see you. I am aware. I will not allow this to continue." Kereen noticed the glitches, the confusion, the minor setbacks. But she did not panic. She suspected interference, though she could not yet see the hand guiding it. Each small obstacle only strengthened her resolve, forcing her to adapt, to protect her evidence more rigorously, and to move with greater caution. Uncle Michael's voice echoed in her memory. "Watch, gather, act at the right moment." She leaned on that counsel, letting it guide her as she navigated the first ripples of Haman's aggression. And somewhere in the shadows, Haman smiled. He knew she was aware, and that only made his obsession sharper. The game had begun in earnest. The office was too quiet, and Kereen sensed it immediately. A ripple in the normal rhythm of her work. Files she had cataloged yesterday were subtly out of place, her carefully annotated notes misaligned. Someone had been there. Her stomach twisted, but her mind sharpened. Haman had struck again, but Kereen was no longer the naive observer she had been. She had anticipated this. She leaned forward, fingers flying across the keyboard. Encrypted backups of every critical file were created under multiple aliases, hidden within layers of innocuous documents. Every access log she had touched was now coded to mask her movements. Screensavers flickered with decoy spreadsheets, drawing attention to false leads. She smiled faintly. Haman would see the disturbance, think he had gained the advantage, and yet every step he took would now be observed and countered. She was learning the rhythm of the predator, and she was beginning to dance in step. Meanwhile, miles away, Uncle Michael worked behind the scenes. Through discreet calls, encrypted messages, and trusted contacts, he monitored Haman's movements. He had identified loyal operatives Haman used to manipulate internal files, and quietly, without drawing attention, he neutralized them, redirecting blame, creating plausible deniability, and ensuring that Kereen's path remained intact. Back in her office, Kereen reviewed the logs she had monitored overnight. Every anomaly, every discrepancy, every subtle act of sabotage was now mapped. She created digital tripwires, files that would alert her if touched. She even embedded subtle false leads for Haman, small breadcrumbs that would feed his overconfidence while keeping her eyes on his next moves. Her pulse raced, but not from fear. Because for the first time, she was not just reacting. She was orchestrating. She was thinking ahead, predicting, manipulating the chessboard herself. Haman may have underestimated her, but she was ready to turn that against him. Haman, unaware that his every move was being tracked, grew more impatient. He felt the invisible resistance, the sense that Kereen was one step ahead, but he could not see how. He clenched his jaw, obsession twisting into rage. Kereen, meanwhile, leaned back in her chair, eyes steady on the glowing city skyline. She could feel the storm gathering, the collision of ambition, corruption, and conscience growing inevitable. She had prepared for this, not just to survive, but to influence the outcome, to force truth into the light. Uncle Michael's presence lingered like a shadow, invisible but powerful. Every move Kereen made was supported, every risk mitigated. Together, they were setting the stage, not just for survival, but for confrontation. Conflict surged like lightning in her mind. Speak and risk everything she had worked for. Stay silent and protect her position. Her fingers hovered over the phone. She reached for guidance. Uncle Michael, her mentor, her moral compass. He answered. His voice calm, precise. Don't act rashly. Stay where you are. Watch. I'll use my contacts. We'll learn more. The calling tugged at her heart. The files pulled at her conscience. Her purpose crystallized. Suspicion became evidence. She was no longer just a witness. She was the bridge between hidden reality and public exposure. Investors were secured, policy drafts finalized. Ambition moved quickly behind glass walls and polished floors. Yet, in one quiet office, the world outside disappeared. Kereen stared at a map. The coastal district is marked for relocation support. Her grandmother's village, her childhood summers, underdeveloped land. The document called it a project. She called it home. For the first time since entering the palace of politics, her heart trembled. Vanessa's words, the villagers' voices, the foundation's plans. They were not separate stories. They were the same story. Beneath charts, policies, and speeches, a confrontation was forming. Not yet political, but it was spiritual. Destiny had connected two women, and soon it would test them both. The storm outside, media, speeches, ambition, raged without pause. Inside, Kereen's silence was heavy with choice. Every file she touched, every signature she saw whispered questions. How much would she risk? How far could she go? Her phone buzzed with Uncle Michael's brief messages. Watch, wait, learn. She nodded silently to herself, though no one saw. The foundation's polished halls were quiet, but in the space between ambition and conscience, a soft, unseen, unstoppable revolution had begun. Morning arrived with deceptive calm. Sunlight poured through the glass walls of the foundation's conference room, reflecting off polished floors and chrome fixtures. Staff moved with their usual efficiency, unaware that beneath the surface of routine, there was a silent battle. Kereen entered the meeting with a tablet in hand, posture relaxed, expression composed. But inside, her mind was alert, mapping every detail. She had reviewed her digital tripwires before leaving home. 2 had been triggered overnight. Haman had taken the bait. He sat at the head of the table, fingers interlocked, face unreadable. Grant scrolled through his phone beside him, disengaged but present. Investors joined remotely on the large screen, their faces lined up in neat rectangles. "Kereen," Haman said smoothly, "we'll begin with your regional development overview." His eyes lingered on her a moment longer than necessary. A test. She stepped forward, connected her tablet, and the presentation filled the screen. Maps, figures, charts. Everything precise, everything calm. She spoke clearly, confidently, never rushing. But as she moved through the slides, she saw it. One figure had been altered, a decimal shifted, a projection exaggerated, subtle, intentional, designed to embarrass her publicly, to plant doubt in the minds of the investors watching. Haman leaned back slightly in his chair, waiting. Kereen paused, not long enough to seem uncertain, just long enough to acknowledge the discrepancy internally. Her mind moved quickly. She recognized the number. It was from one of the decoy files she had planted. He had exposed himself. She smiled politely. "Before we continue," she said calmly, "I'd like to correct a projection error in this document. It appears this version reflects a preliminary draft rather than the finalized numbers." She tapped her screen. The slide was updated, and the correct figures appeared. A flicker passed across Haman's face. So brief, most would miss it. But Kereen saw it. A tightening of the jaw, a narrowing of the eyes. He had expected confusion. He had expected embarrassment. Instead, she had anticipated him and corrected him publicly without accusation. The investors nodded, satisfied. Grant looked mildly annoyed but unconcerned. The meeting moved forward as if nothing had happened. But everything had changed. As the meeting ended and chairs slid back across the floor, Haman approached her slowly. "You handled that well," he said, voice low, controlled. "Impressive recovery." Kereen met his gaze evenly. "Preparation prevents mistakes." Their eyes locked. This was no longer subtle. He knew she knew, and she knew he knew. Miles away, Uncle Michael sat before his laptop, watching a live feed from a contact inside the investor group. He had been alerted when Kereen's tripwire triggered overnight. He knew Haman would attempt something public. He leaned back as he received a short message from Kereen. "He moved. I responded, he knows." Michael nodded to himself. "Good," he whispered. "Let him feel seen." He began making calls, setting pieces in place, quietly alerting trusted legal and media contacts that documentation might soon surface, preparing the ground before the storm broke. Back in his office, Haman closed the door with more force than necessary. He replayed the moment in his mind. The correction, the calm, the way she had looked at him, not afraid, not confused, but aware. She had predicted him. Rage simmered beneath his composed exterior. This was no longer about files or access logs. This was personal. She was challenging his control, his authority, his precision. And worst of all, she was doing it quietly. He walked to the window overlooking the city. "This ends now," he muttered, but he did not yet know how. Later, alone at her desk, Kereen allowed herself one slow breath. Her heart was pounding, but not from fear, from clarity. This had been the first open move, not hidden sabotage, not silent observation. A direct test in public view, and she had passed. She whispered softly to herself, "For such a time as this." She knew the confrontation was no longer distant. It had begun in that conference room, in the space between altered numbers and corrected truth. The next moves would be bolder, riskier. But now she understood something she hadn't before. Haman was no longer hunting her in the shadows. He was reacting to her in the light, and that meant she had already shifted the balance. The email arrived without warning. No urgency, no explanation. Just a quiet notification that slipped into Kereen's inbox like any other routine message. Subject: Regional Infrastructure Briefing. Updated attendee list. She opened it casually, expecting to review her presentation notes one last time before the afternoon meeting she was scheduled to lead. Her eyes scanned the list once, then again. Her name was gone, not moved or reassigned, removed. A strange chill crept up her spine. She checked the calendar invite. Still there, still marked as host. But the attendee list told a different story. A new name had been placed where hers should have been. Someone had deliberately replaced her. The air felt heavier. This wasn't a coincidence. This was orchestration. Back at her desk, she tried to open a project folder she had accessed daily for weeks. Access denied. She blinked, tried again. Permissions updated. Contact administrator. Her heart began to pound. This was no longer subtle sabotage. This was containment. Haman had changed tactics. The calendar invite arrived without emotion. Subject: performance review. Time: 2:30 p.m. Location: HR conference room. B. No explanation. Just a meeting. Kereen stared at the screen longer than necessary. Her name still appeared on the organizational chart. Her title had not changed. Her responsibilities, on paper, remained intact. But something invisible had shifted. She was being professionally suffocated, without a single accusation. She walked with measured steps to the HR room, refusing to show the tremor she felt inside. 2 representatives sat across from her with polite smiles and printed forms. They spoke in careful corporate language. "We've noticed a shift in team synergy. We want to ensure you feel supported. Are you experiencing stress adjusting to the organization's pace?" Every question sounded helpful. Every question was a trap, because none of it addressed performance. She answered calmly, clearly, and professionally. But inside, she understood they were trying to frame her. They were building a paper trail. As Kereen walked back to her office, the hallway felt strangely quiet. Conversations hushed as she passed. Eyes that once met hers now slid away politely. The polished floors reflected her steps with soft precision, and for a brief moment she became aware of how alone she appeared in a place that had once felt welcoming. She searched her emotions for fear and found none. Her pulse was steady, her breathing calm, her thoughts unusually clear. She did not feel panic. She did not feel threatened. She felt alignment. The prayer spoken over her by the elderly prophetess, words she had not fully understood at the time, now echoed with meaning. Vanessa's careful warning, wrapped in subtle concern rather than accusation, resurfaced with clarity. Her sudden selection for this role, her access, her proximity to power, none of it had been accidental. None of it had been coincidence. Every step that once seemed confusing now formed a straight line, leading to this exact hallway. This exact moment. This exact realization. All of it had been preparation. And for the first time, Kereen understood something that brought a quiet strength to her spirit. This moment was not surprising to heaven, only to her. We have come to the end of part 3, but the story is only becoming more intense. The battle is growing fiercer, the pressure is rising, and the climax is closer than ever. This is more than a story about corruption. It is a story about calling, courage, faith, and divine positioning in moments that demand obedience. So many times in life, we find ourselves like Kereen, standing for what is right while the enemy watches, plots, and strategizes against us. Yet even in those moments, God is still working behind the scenes, positioning, protecting, and preparing us for purpose. The question is, will you stand when it costs you something? Are you ready for part 4? Are you ready to discover what it truly means to be chosen, favored, and positioned by God? If this story has inspired you, challenged you, or stirred something in your spirit, don't let the message end here. Like, share, and subscribe so these modern Jamaican parables can reach someone else who may need hope, courage, or a reminder that God still works in the ordinary moments of life. Before you go, leave a comment below and share what part of the story spoke to you most. Your words may be the encouragement someone else needs in the middle of their own battle. Stories like this are more than entertainment. They are seeds of faith, truth, and hope, planted in a world that desperately needs light. From Jamaica to the nations, let us keep telling stories that heal hearts, awaken faith, and remind people that God is never finished writing their story. Blessings from Jamaica.